What if I told you that the FIA already knows exactly why Lewis Hamilton has more energy than everyone on the grid? But it's not the car that makes it different, but the way he drives. Because while other drivers run out of drive at the end of the straights, Hamilton always seems to have an extra saved up right at the key moment. And no, it is not magic nor an illegal trick. It is something much more disturbing. A way of driving that is exploiting the new Formula One energy system to the maximum. The key to understanding why Lewis Hamilton is generating more power than his rivals is not in an isolated improvement or a revolutionary component, but in something much deeper. The complete transformation of the driving concept within modern Formula One. The FIA has made it clear after the analysis after the Chinese Grand Prix. The new energy regulation has changed the rules of the game, and now performance does not depend solely on pure speed, but on how each driver interacts with the flow of energy throughout the lap. In this context, Hamilton has taken a step that others have not yet managed to consolidate. While many drivers continue to drive under traditional patterns prioritizing aggressive corner entry or immediate acceleration, he has adapted his style to a much more efficient and calculated approach. This means that every braking, every transition, and every application of the accelerator is designed not only to save time, but to optimize the recovery and use of electrical energy. And here is the critical point. In 2026, energy is no longer secondary, it is the car's most valuable resource. The FIA has even structured the system so that it depends directly on the circuit and the driver's behavior. On tracks like China, where there are multiple braking zones, the ability to recover energy increases, but only if the driver executes each phase correctly. It's not just about braking more, but doing it at the right time with the right pressure and maintaining the balance of the car to maximize regeneration without compromising performance. This is where Hamilton is making a brutal difference. It turns each braking point into an energy charging opportunity without losing competitiveness. This approach has a direct consequence that is already being seen on the track. While other drivers reach the end of the straights with drops in power or with the system limited, Hamilton maintains a much more stable delivery. This does not happen because it has more power available in absolute terms, but because its previous management has been more efficient. That is, he has built that advantage throughout the entire lap, not just at the moment of accelerating. That is the big difference that the FIA has detected. It is not a performance peak, it is superior energy consistency. Furthermore, the system is heavily monitored. The FIA uses specific sensors to monitor the energy entering and leaving the electrical system, virtually eliminating any possibility of technical irregularity. This reinforces the idea that Hamilton's advantage does not come from a regulatory loophole, but from perfect execution within the established limits. And that makes it even more worrying for its rivals because there is nothing to ban, just something to try to copy. Therefore, what we are seeing is not simply a fast driver, but a driver who has understood before anyone else how to win in this new era. Hamilton isn't just racing other cars, he's playing with energy better than anyone. And in a Formula One where every megajoule counts, that can be the difference between dominating or being left without an answer. The problem for the rest of the field is not just that Hamilton is managing energy better, it is that he is doing it in multiple layers at the same time, combining driving, hybrid system and car behavior in a way that is not obvious to the naked eye. And this is where the second key point revealed by the FIA comes in. The difference is not only in how much is recovered, but in when and how that energy is deployed. Because in this new regulation, it is not enough to have stored energy. True performance comes when that energy is released at the perfect time, and that is where many are failing. There are pilots who recover well but deliver poorly. Others try to use it aggressively and end up causing performance drops in the middle of the straight. And then there is Hamilton, who has managed to synchronize the entire system as if it were a natural extension of his driving. What you are doing differently is something extremely difficult to execute, maintaining a constant balance between recovery and deployment without generating unnecessary spikes. This avoids the dreaded loss of thrust effect seen in other cars, that moment where they simply run out of power. While other drivers depend on specific moments of power, Hamilton builds a progressive, sustained and strategically distributed delivery along the entire straight. Here comes into play a concept that is marking this new era: the total efficiency of the system. It's not about using more energy but about wasting less. And this is directly linked to how the driver manages the car in critical phases such as corner exit. If you accelerate too early or too aggressively, you compromise not only traction but also energy balance. Hamilton, on the other hand, seems to have millimeter control at that exact point where he turns corner exit into a perfect transition to the electric phase. In addition, there is another factor that the FIA has put on the table that adds even more complexity. the interaction with other car systems such as active aerodynamics. Energy is not managed in isolation, but in synchrony with aerodynamic behavior, which means that any error in coordination can cost tenths per lap. And this is where Mercedes, together with Hamilton, seems to have found an optimization window that others have not yet fully mastered. This explains why the differences are not always seen in each corner, but in the entire lap. It is a silent, cumulative advantage, which translates into several tenths when everything is added up. Ferrari, for example, can be competitive in curves, even superior in certain sections, but it loses that advantage when it comes time to convert energy into sustained speed. And that's where Hamilton hits. Therefore, the most worrying thing for his rivals is not only that he is ahead, it is that the way in which he is achieving it requires something more than a technical improvement. It requires changing the way you drive, understanding the car from another perspective, and, above all, achieving a level of precision that not everyone can quickly replicate. Because this is no longer just Formula One. This is energy management taken to the limit. And this is where everything changes completely, because what the FIA has hinted at not only explains why Hamilton has more energy, but also where Formula One is headed and who is really prepared to dominate this new era. Because if in the previous act we understood that the key is in the synchronization between recovery and deployment, now the conclusion is much more forceful. Hamilton is not only using the system better, he is driving in a way that fits perfectly with the DNA of the 2026 regulation. And that, in competitive terms, is a devastating advantage. The FIA has designed an extremely controlled system, with sensors monitoring every energy flow, clear recovery and deployment limits, and a direct dependence on the driver's behavior. This virtually eliminates any possibility of external advantage. Everything goes through the pilot. And when that happens, real differences come to the surface. And here's the most important point of all. Hamilton isn't forcing the car to adapt to him. He's adapted his driving to maximize what the system allows. While other drivers are still trying to squeeze the car like in previous generations, he is playing a completely different game, one where every decision has a direct impact on the energy state of the car. This has a clear consequence for the immediate future. If this trend continues, we are not facing a specific circuit or configuration advantage. We are facing a driving model that can become the dominant standard. And that forces everyone else to react, but not with a simple technical improvement, but with a profound change in their way of driving. Teams like Ferrari have already identified the problem. They can be fast in corners, competitive in race pace, but when the time comes to transform energy into pure speed, especially on a lap, they lose ground. And that is not corrected only with aerodynamic or engine evolutions. It requires understanding exactly what Hamilton is already executing. Additionally, there is a factor that makes all of this even more critical: time. Because while some teams plan medium-term solutions, evolution packages, regulatory adjustments, progressive improvements, Hamilton is already exploiting that advantage right now. And in a championship where differences are measured in tenths, starting with that advanced understanding can mark an entire season. Therefore, the real threat is not that Hamilton has more energy, it is that he has understood before anyone else how to generate, conserve and use that resource within the strictest limits that Formula One has ever had. And the big question that remains in the air is not whether others will be able to achieve it, but how long it will take them to do so and how many races or even championships they can lose before achieving it. And in the end, it all comes down to an idea that completely changes the way we understand performance in today's Formula One. It is no longer just the one who has the fastest car who wins. The one who best understands energy wins. Because what the FIA has revealed leaves no room for doubt. Hamilton's advantage does not come from a regulatory loophole, nor from a hidden piece, nor from something that can be banned tomorrow. It is born from something much more difficult to replicate: perfect execution within an extremely limited and controlled system. Hamilton has managed to get ahead of the rest in the most determining aspect of this new era. He has understood that each braking is an opportunity, that each corner exit defines the energy state of the car, and that each straight is not won with raw power, but with how you get there. And while others are still looking for answers in the car, he already found them in the way he drives. This makes your advantage much more dangerous than mere tenths, because it does not depend solely on technical improvements, but on a level of precision, adaptation, and understanding that not everyone can achieve at the same time. And in a championship where every little detail counts, that can make a difference that is impossible to close in the short term. Therefore, the conclusion is clear. Hamilton is not only being more efficient, he is redefining how to drive in this Formula One. And now the entire paddock is facing the same reality. It's not a question of whether they can catch up, but whether they can learn fast enough before it's too late. Let me know in the comments what you think about all this.